Any sort of special picks?
Um, I don't know. I'm expecting kind of standard, especially once you start getting into semis and finals is usually when you start having a lot more of the standard things. People are a little less spicy just because everything's on the line, right? You got elimination. First round and finals are normally where you see the spiciest picks, right? Finals to sort of catch people off guard. First round also for the same reasons, but quarters and semis tend to be a bit more conservative just because there's so much on the line. You don't want to be eliminated. You want to play your best game possible. So you tend to just pick the safest, most in roll heroes. So could expect to see
Eh,
something like Greystone, right? Has been a very popular flex pick. Um, Standard ADCs, Twin Blast, Drungo, Murdoch, all pretty strong right now.
Yeah, speaking of standard, we got the Argus ban coming through once again. Team BengalMac does not want Team Bry to first pick that, and something a bit different compared to the quarterfinals. We have that Belica ban instead of the Krang ban, so there is a large amount of first pick options Team Bry can go for. The Rampage we saw first picked multiple times already. Another good pick such as the Richter, the Steel, Krang is also available. So a lot of good picks for Team Bry to come through, but at the same time, BengalMac has a lot of secondary picks they can go for, and they have a lot of. I'm not going to say one tricks because they are all very proficient players, but favorite characters, I would say, as we finally get the first pick coming through and not banned, so we're going to pick up the Krang.
Yeah, not surprised. Kwang's still very strong even after his changes, right? He still has some good scaling into the late game. His early is not as strong, um, but he still has great clear in the jungle, still great offlane potential, so pretty decent flex pick. Argus is sort of a universal ban right now, right? He's flexed into realistically three roles, probably the strongest pick in the game, just too flexible, too strong where he is played, so kind of hard, but we're gonna see the Richter locked in for Team BengalMac and one more. So Twin Blast as well. So just locking in the duo lane probably right there. I mean, Richter can play the off lane and jungle, but support I think is still his strongest role by a pretty wide margin. And the Twin Blast still a very popular carry. Lots of damage, can build more into that penetration build, or you can go for the more on hit attack speed build if you want hyper carry. So not too surprised to see these picks. Would not be surprised to see Bry answer with something like a Drongo, maybe, right? To get some silences down onto the Twin Blast variability focus, but we'll have to see what happens.
That's hard to say. Also, Kaya Rugo, a very proficient Trim Blast player. He is probably his most. It is his most played champion, but picking that up early leaves the Rampage open. Something that has been seen as a first pick in the past has actually been left for the third round pick for Team Bry. And alongside that, we're talking about special picks. Oh, Bry's Iggy. He has been playing this for as long as Iggy has been out. And we have seen the downs he's done with it in multiple PCCs. So a very comfort pick being picked up by him. And we'll have to see what Team BengalMac wants to pick for their last option before these second bans come out.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the Fae locked in. So yeah, pretty standard mages right now. In the mid lane, right, you have the Iggy of the Fae, both high damage, team fight oriented mages, lots of damage over time, usually building the Megacosm. So pretty even matchup in mid there. Can kind of go either way depending on jungle help, right? Like Fae should theoretically win this lane in the one-on-one because of the harvest nettles, but also Iggy is pretty easily able to neutralize the lane, so it's probably going to come down to jungle ganks, what kind of pressure they can get down. The Rampage, yeah, also a very popular pick, so that's probably going to be Kwang off lane now that we've seen the Rampage locked in. I'd be
I,
very surprised if it's not.
I see
Um,
Rampage off lane. Don't pick it. Please, please. Just
no,
if you want
no.
to pick it, don't be in my game. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, we
and
could see Kwang support, but I
we
don't think we're
haven't
going to get
seen
that
that.
level of spice.
I feel like that's a more EU pick. So we'll have to see if they go for it. But no, they ban Decker. Could be. And in the meantime, Bry bans the Crunch against Tekken Kid. Crunch, of course, Tekken Kid's probably most played champion. But he can play basically anything in the game, so banning it away is probably the most use in the game. And another thing I want to really point out is in terms of the mid lanes, Iggy is a lot safer than the Fae. He has that he's got that really large slow. He's got his ultimate bellow breath. that allows him to knock back any sort of dive. And when you look at Faye, you're already against a Rampage and a Krang, which have multiple ways of locking you down. And unless you have Blink or Epoch, there is no way for you to escape.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to come down to team fights, sort of really trying to keep Faye in the back and trying to buy some time, get good damage down before anything real happens, trying to tank some engage. And we see the Greystone here. Great option for that. Not surprised to see him here. Greystone has been a very powerful pick for a while now, both jungle and off lane. Can go sort of a hybrid fighter and tank build, can go full tank, can operate more into the fighter, can go assassin, but usually that's more of
Please no.
a more usually that's more
But
of a
you should,
for fun build.
that's
Um,
very much a let's go and burn them. It's a good item, right? People build it,
sure.
Trimblast builds it, Wraith builds it, it's all good.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Team Bry has finally picked their ADC. It is going to be the Drongo, like you mentioned earlier on. And
Yeah.
along with
Ooh,
oh,
Muriel. Okay.
that's that's an interesting one, especially against a Richter. Muriel, of course, is pretty good lane bully, has got a lot of damage in that early game, and as the game progresses, it's going to transition to that enchanter support with the shield and the attack speed buff, as well as the movement speed. But again, is a very, very squishy character, and against a lane such as the Richter Trimblast, with Trimblast most likely going that penetration build. Um, I don't think you survive it.
Yeah, it's more on the Richter to miss the hooks or you to have some really great dodges, rather than to have like a real chance of survival, right? You're not going to be able to tank a lot of that damage, right? You can put all those shields down, you can try and get the slows, but if you get Richter hooked, if you get silenced, you're going to eat two grenades, a full vaporize from the twin blast. You're going to eat a bunch of autos. So like even with all of the shield stacking, you're still going to be taking a lot of HP. Two hooks, maybe three with the survival, and you're dead. So you're gonna have to be very careful. And we see the Grux locked in as the final pick for BengalMac,
That's
Team
quite
BengalMac.
that is also quite interesting because both Greystone and Grux can go both in the solo and the jungle. So we actually aren't entirely sure which one is which. In terms of the heroes, I feel like Calipito plays more Greystone than he does Grux. So my bet would be Tekken Kid piloting that Grux into the Krang. Meanwhile, Greystone goes into the jungle. But that does lie in the case that Grux is a lot better into Rampage because of the amount of CC he has. It stops the rock being produced outside of his ultimate. And Greystone, he is a very, very survivable champion. He's not going to be doing much. He's honestly quite boring in terms of his kit. But what he does great. And into a Krang, that's all you need, really. Just survive the laning phase, get into those team fights, get onto that Iggy, Drongo, Muriel in the back line, and just remove them. That's both of the comps completely finished for Team Bry and Team BengalMac. Do you have a lead on this one? Because honestly, they're pretty even.
It looks like if I had to give it, Team Bry is slightly better in the team fight. Team BengalMac is slightly better in the skirmishes. Obviously, having something like the Greystone and the Grux together just lends you sort of that double bruiser power, and then you also have the Richter. So sort of three balls of health, some bruisers in front of a Fae, and obviously a Twin Blast are going to be able to do a lot of damage. But Team Bry also has two tanks. They have the advantage of having a bit more consistent damage thanks to the Drongo and the Iggy, but then you also have the Muriel able to keep your tanks alive a bit longer, able to add that magic damage on autos. Um, so that Enchanter is just going to be a bit better at keeping the Iggy or the Drongo alive if any dive tries to come through. But I think in general, they're pretty evenly matched. I think for Team BengalMac, it's going to be trying to get that Grux and that Twin Blast online early and to use that to transition in the mid game. I think for Team Bry, it's going to be mostly about weathering the storm in that duo lane. Maybe picking up something in the off lane using Kwang's high base damage, trying to get something there. Iggy probably not going to be able to land anything insane onto Faye unless an insane rock comes through. But is really hard to get on top of, especially in that mid lane, especially if you're running Greystone or Grux. They don't really have a ton of ways to run at you and deal with the turrets, poking them down. Not a ton of ranged hard CC or ways to bring them back in. So looking forward to it. Still expecting to see very explosive team fights from both of these comps.
And we can immediately see that Tekken Kid is going to be piloting that Grux. Calipito is going to be on the gray zone. So that is the first mystery solved of this game. Everything else, very, very standard. Nothing really to talk about. As yeah, I think it's going to be quite a calm level 1. Do you think so?
Yeah, I don't expect to see anything too crazy. The exception obviously being an insane Richter hook, but I don't expect to see anything wild beyond that. You could see a potential invade, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, no real abilities to really lock down a target outside of maybe the Rampage Boulder. But, they just want to be able to farm up a lot of scaling on both of these compositions as well. So the minions are going to spawn, the level 1s are going to get them through. And, I mean, there's not much really else to talk about. And so where do you think the action's going to start?
I'm guessing probably around level 2 or 3 in the off lane. I think it'll start around level 2 as well in the duo lane, but I think that's gonna be very conditional action. I think it's gonna be if the Richter can land a hook, I think it's gonna be if Tekken Kid's willing to try and zone switches off of the wave. Um, Very much if it's gonna be, any ganks coming through. Both, teams have pretty decent gank potential, mostly because their CC setup is in the off lane for, Team BengalMac and for Team, Bry, it's pretty much all in the jungle, right? Is that Rampage Rock, that jump on. So both teams do have good potential. It's just where it comes from. And we can see Tekken Kid right now getting some good chip damage in. This is something Grux is really good at, is being a lane bully. So doesn't want to overextend in the wave, but being being pretty careful. We should see him try to fight once he starts getting those levels and is able to run switches down.
The problem is, as Krang is so good, the Light of the Heavens, given that extra shield, means that every time Tekken Kid comes up to auto switches and use his double pain, switches can immediately use that ability, gain a shield, and means that the trade is basically null and void. We can already see it happening there as the full Nats grab comes in, knocks switches under tower, and takes a tower shot. But that's going to be the end of that most likely. In the meantime, you see junglers both being on this red side. Defelis is going to be a bit behind, but it's going to look for a gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, going in right now, trying to get the rock down. The slow does come out. He does miss the rock, so he has to force it back off. But some nice little poke down there. I'm not surprised Faye was playing really far back. Papiro sort of knows his limits, is not going to try and play too risky at this point in the game. Both laners, obviously, strong mages, but here Omni blinks away, trying to
Oh,
go down. Ruga finally taking him out. Insanity getting very low, slowed up, trying to dodge those autos. Insanity finally hits the last thing. Minions
here
get
comes
him, but Karuga
Bry.
able to pick up one. Bry now on the rotate, dropping some turrets, gets the Molotov down for some good damage and a bit of a slow. Aruga trying to dodge out. The slows come down even more. He is ignited up with that passive, trying to dance around the gold buff and block some shots. Getting some pot shots in here where he can, but the Molotov comes down and will finish him off. Aruga, a 2 for 2, thanks to the roam from Bry.
A lot of action already on the board. Calipito is also very low, but that is the same for Defellas and Switches, and they are going to have to back up because Tekken Kid is still at half HP. Calipito is no
Quality
longer
gameplay
on.
right there. Quality gameplay.
You know, this happened in a swim that we practiced with, and I called that player bad. And I'm going to do the same here. Calipito, this is the semifinals, you're bad. Anyway, moving on from that, that's the end of that. I just want to go back to the duo lane. You see how strong the Ripless can be from the Richter, but it is going to be at least a 2-for-2 trade. But the problem is, Kyuuga got that first blood and got both the kills, so he is actually going to be quite ahead in terms of gold compared to Insanity, and that can easily snowball this lane pretty hard, especially if they hit another Whiplash, because there is no protections, especially for Omni, who did use his blink in the attempt to escape. So they are going to have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, definitely. Omni especially on that enchanter, it was able to buy enough time, especially for Insanity to get some good damage down, and then for the Bry to rotate. So very nicely put there. I will say, as far as dying to the Cyan buff goes, I feel like this is something that happened a lot towards the start of the game and is probably still happening. Is a lot of other MOBAs usually have like ways for junglers to heal off monsters or camps. And Predecessor, if you don't build Lifesteal or Omnivamp, you don't heal. There is no
You
like
hunt just a little bit.
You
but it's
don't
not
have, like,
much.
passing yeah, okay, that is true, you get spawn damage, but you don't have, like, the insane, like, 10% Omnivamp or, like, smiting heal or, like, using Hunt, right? Smite in other games. Using Hunt on a camp doesn't heal you, so you go in, you try and fight it, and nothing happens, but now we see Delphos jumping on. Molotov comes down with a good little bit of damage. Pop Hero at half HP, but Calipito is over there, so Bry and Delphos forced to both back up. Nothing
Yeah,
coming out of it yet, but, another good rock could finish him off. Pop Hero probably gonna have to back soon because he's low on mana, and we can see both junglers dancing around, the off lane now.
Bry also got level 6 before Pop Hero. That means that the Inferno is going to be available. And if a walk does connect, he can easily walk behind Pop Hero and get knocked back into the lane. But the Switch is going to have to be very, very careful here. Calipito and Tekken Kid both not level 6, but they have a lot of damage in between them.
Yeah, and, Tekken Kid right now is just sort of holding the wave there. Calipito sweeping, trying to see if there's any angle for him. BengalMac is hovering around mid, so they might be looking for something around there. But it's very hard now with the Iggy. And the Riplash goes wide, so nothing's going to happen there. And yeah, it's kind of hard to run up to the Iggy, especially with all those turrets taking damage. You just have to go for the hook. But if you miss it, obviously you run the risk of you were sort of over there doing nothing, absorbing your mid laner's XP, and just sort of wasting time when you could have been somewhere else doing something more important.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
always worth the effort because at the moment in time, Kyogre's wave was near his tower. He wasn't in any danger against his Drongo and Muriel. So the rotation, if it was successful, would have been a kill. But in the meantime, it wasn't. There is going to be a bit more fighting in this dual lane. But without a Whiplash coming from BengalMac, it is going to be the case that Bry's team is going to be ahead in that trade. In the meantime,
oh,
though,
Bry in the
Optimus is
mid
going to have to
lane
blink
flashes
away.
forward. Gets him. Wow. Blinking forward very aggressively there. And we can see a fight now in the off lane, or sorry, the duo lane. BengalMac forced to blink out as well. Kyaruga on the chase. Insanity looking for something more. Just gonna fight over the gold buff. Forced back. BengalMac taking a little bit too much damage there. And with no mana, I can only assume probably missed a Riplash on the walk up and was forced back immediately out when they realized that they can kind of just run him down at that point.
Yeah, that is definitely the problem with Victor. If you miss your skill shots, it's not going to be very helpful. In the meantime, Switch is just going for a bait, but look at how well Tekken Kid is just holding this lane. DK will just have a quick scoreboard whilst we start to Fang Tooth up on the side of Bry. I'm not sure if the observer can hear me, unfortunately, so we might not be getting that. Instead, we're going to get the Fang Tooth being taken from Team Bry. That's just from the fact that BengalMac was forced to back as well as the kill on Pop Hero D2. Lanes being ahead is an easy engage for that first Fang Tooth and a pretty decent start as well. That's going to keep the third Fang Tooth spawn around the 18 to 20-minute mark, just before the Orb Prime does.
And now we can see the scoreboard. So minor item completions coming through. We can see Bry 2-0 now. Nice little bit of gold on him. He's able to finish off the Megacosm there. But looks like a fight might be happening. Calipito trying to get the gank off in the off lane. Switches has no mana, and Tekken Kid was holding the wave the whole time. And despite Tekken Kid being very low for pretty much the entirety of the last 2-3 minutes, it's very hard because Switches is not able to capitalize on it. But Bry able to finish off Pop Hero over in the mid lane. Looks like a jungle and support gank over there. Um,
Yeah, it's just so easy to gank onto this phase Pop here, especially the fact that they have no blink. They wasted it trying to escape Bry earlier. Now he's already got 3 kills. It's going to be very, very difficult for this Fae to really come back into this game outside of just having a massive fly trap come at that mid game. And that was one of my big worries. Having this Fae into a rampage is not easy to play, and especially not going to be something that is effective to play in that lane. And Bry is just showing it as much time. Speaking of showing up, we see Switches going under the tower and solo bowling the Tekken Kid there. And I mean, if that's a statement, I don't know what isn't.
yeah, especially on the tower dive. It looked like Tekken just stayed around a little bit too long, trying to hold the wave a little bit too long, and didn't respect Switches just coming back and diving him at such a low HP total. And then something you can do, right? Kwang just has the base stats, has enough damage that you can dive and just tank the damage and leave. And Tekken Kid just not showing enough respect, I think, probably needed to back when his wave was held, when Switches was forced to back off, and he didn't. So he gets punished for it. Currently 5-2, so it is still in favor of Team Bry, but Team BengalMac starting to sort of get picks here and there, try and finish off where they can. You can see Bry forced to walk back into mid through Calipito, but Delafest is there to back him up. Rock goes wide, so not going to be able to land anything there. But both teams being pretty careful right now, not a ton coming out, and I'm not surprised. Although Delphas may be looking for something in the duo lane, he is able to find it. The silence comes down. BengalMac with a skewer onto 3. Omni trying to get the slows. Insanity is able to pump out damage, but BengalMac is just a little bit too tanky. No mana, but Calipito jumps in onto 3. Shotgun comes out. Calipito blinks forward, trying to find more. Omni, very low HP, also forced to blink out as well. Delphas needs to blink out. All 3 blinks down. Calipito popping the ult to force them.
Yeah, I think the
No
Stoneforge
blood
sword.
coming through, but a lot of blinks coming out.
Yeah, I still think the Stoneforge sword there was used maybe a bit too late. He could have used it a bit earlier and gotten the slow. Either way, that did force the 3 blinks out of Team Bry. But again, that was just Team Bry going in a bit too aggressively and not really knowing where the enemy jungler was, which has led to their disadvantage. Bry at least trying to get something off in the solo side. But again, because of the fact that Defelis was in that duo lane, they can't actually transition that into a mini prime, which is the only big objective on the map. And even though it's 11.5 minutes in the game, no real towers have taken that much damage. So I don't really expect them to be down anytime soon either. I just want to talk about the Pop Heroes build here. So they've gone for that Time Warp first item, just gone for that extra mana regen and ability haste, which isn't something you would normally see. Normally, you see something like a Mega Cosm or an Alchemical Rod first on the Fae, just to have that extra damage against high HP targets or that extra mana. It's an interesting idea, but I don't particularly like it because it doesn't give you as much damage. And as Fae, even though you have got a lot of AoE damage, it needs a lot of stats to actually scale properly.
Yeah, typically Time Warp is something you go maybe second or third. Um, Something pretty similar to sort of that cap out item. But the skewer comes on to 2,
Oh,
and Omni immediately blown up as well as Insanity, forced to run back. He's probably not going to be able to get the reversal of fortune. He's going to try for it, but he won't have the time. Kairuga with a double in the duo lane.
yeah, that's why Richter's picked a lot of the time, and it's just to great effect. Plus the fact that Kairuga has gone for that penetration build is going to be very, very
Definitely gonna
helpful.
off
In the
lane though.
meantime, we're going to have Tekken Kid go and try and kill Switch. Their fellas is in his ultimate, gets rock onto Tekken Kid, which is forced to blink out. The root hits onto Tekken Kid and the minions plus the fellas is going to be enough. In the meantime, Calipito does survive against the mini five and secure it for his team.
Yeah, nice little plays over there in the off lane. Good pick. Switches thought he might have been able to find something, right? Or well, sorry. They thought they might have been able to find something in the Grux. Tekken Kid thought he was going to find something, but Switches able to buy enough time, use those shields, use those knockups to buy time for his jungler, and Defilis just running over there, landing some rocks, backing up his offlaner, and getting some kills down. And we're gonna look over to the Fang now. BengalMac is here to potentially stop them. They are going to start bringing the Fae over here. Calipito's running back. But without the Twin Blast, without the Grux there, they're probably going to be able to finish it off before. We'll see if they can get out here. Looks like they're going to try. Nothing too much. But Defil is running in. Switches on the back end. Fae immediately forced to blink out as Insanity is going to grab him. Tekken Kid with a big knock up, trying to find more. And the Reversal of Fortune gets 3. Big Shield coming down. Insanity for 2. Looking to find more on the backside. Calipito is able to land this low. Tekken Kid bopping very low. Kyrug killed Omni, but it's so far a 3 for 2 right now. Goes into the Epoch, trying to get some damage down. Calipito forced to run away, but the slow hits. Will he be able to get out? It looks like Bry and Insanity are both going to try and chase very low right now. 1 HP. A single Molotov from anywhere will be able to land him out. The alley-oop doesn't hit, but the boomerang from Insanity will be able to take him out. A total 4 for 2 there in favor of Team Bry.
And they just really were fighting over nothing there. The Fangtooth was already taken. Calipito had to reset because of the amount of damage he took from the mini prime, and he wasn't able to back in time before the Fangtooth had spawned. The team fight looked okay for the moment. Tekken Kid got a knock up onto 2, but just the shield coming out of the Muriel was so strong in that fight that Omni basically kept a lot of his team alive. And at the end of the day, that is going to be a 4 for 1 for the side of Team Bry and puts them into a really good position because of the second Fangtooth. And that's going to allow them to look for that third Fangtooth just before the main prime has spawned.
Yeah, and you can see now Tekken Kid finally sort of coming online with those Grux items, able to really start beating switches in. Switches did end up going for the Fire Blossom, so is leaning more towards a tankier build, but he does have that Tempest, so has a little bit of hybrid in there. But yeah, the big shields from Omni keeping his entire team alive just bought so much time. Switch is able to steal the Cyan buff there.
Yeah, and he's also going Elephos second, so it's pretty standard build in terms of build for the Crank. We'll probably go into some sort of magic protection next. Either a Flux Matrix is pretty standard, maybe an Unbroken as well against the Fae and the Richter. But now, hopefully, this is an NA game, remember, so anything can happen. But hopefully, we get a low state because there shouldn't be anything to fight for. However, they're NA teams, so they're going to start fighting.
Yeah, and some interesting there from Bry going for the Tainted Totem, actually. Um,
That's a Tainted Scepter.
Sorry,
Right.
Tainted Scepter. My bad. You are correct. It doesn't look like there's a ton of healing right now, but I guess we're just going it for the extra damage. As
Uh,
the Rift Walkers try and get the skewer down, lots of damage, and the Fly Trap will finish him off. Bry just steps way too far forward there. As
I
Delphus,
think they're stepping on other stuff there from the looks of things.
uh, okay, it gets hooked back in. BengalMac able to find it. Delphus, both members of Team Bry just walking in, doing way too much. And I was stunned there for a bit. I don't know if that's a spectator bug, but it looked like Delphus had Astral Catalyst on the Rampage.
I'm gonna be honest, I did not look, so I'm gonna have to look a bit later on. But this is a really, really good push from the side of Team BengalMac. They are going to lose the tier 1 tower in the side lane, but none of Team Bry has reacted, and Bry's only just respawned. Uh, Deathfellas is also just only respawning now. And just those 2 picks allows them to get probably about even here. They aren't ahead in any case, but the amount of pressure that they're going to get from this mid lane push now is going to be massive because they can have a large amount.
Yeah,
That
it's
is an
real.
Astral Catalyst.
That is an Astral Catalyst Rampage. Okay. I'm just making sure I wasn't going
No,
crazy.
no, it's great. It's a genius move because ready, the more you ult, the more HP you have, and Astral Catalyst allows you to ult more, so therefore it's a good item.
I guess. But don't you just go Giant's Ring? I feel like it serves a pretty similar purpose, but now we can see Delphus looking for Tekken Kid in the off lane, needs to land this rock. Tekken Kid, nice little sidestep is going to get it, but the knockup comes out. Fury of the Heavens comes out, lots of lightning and slows, but yeah, that slow zone that you get from the Iceborne Talons is really strong. Tekken Kid pulls in 2, lands a double knockup, able to get a ton of damage down, now trying to bounce around, but he's not going to be able to find it. 4-man dive for Tekken Kid, and he will not be able to survive that.
Yeah, but look at the time of Fangtooth. It's only about a minute up. They're going to have to either reset now before it comes up and actually run over there. And at the very least, Kairuka's going to get this tier 2 tower in the duo side. So they're actually not gaining any from this. If anything, tier 1 tower on the solo side for tier 2 tower on the duo is a loss for them. They do get Tekken Kid, yeah, but he hasn't got a shutdown goal. He hasn't really done anything in this game. And they are just not able to take that tier 2 tower in the end because of the lack of minions. Fangtooth has spawned. And the duo side of Team Bry is still over on the solo side. This is going to be at least 4v3 to begin with. And it's just a macro misplay for them.
Yeah, just forcing all everything over there to get Tekken Kid seems very aggressive. Switch is trying to walk into 4. He's going to be forced to dash out. Rampage jumps in, maybe looking for the steal, but he gets skewered. Lots of damage coming down. The reversal of fortune might be able to keep him alive. It is not going to. They're able to get Fangtooth and 2 picks currently. Bry forced to blink out Insanity as well, but it'll go down. Bry looking to fall as well. Good little damage there. He's able to get off the Inferno. Tekken Kid falls on the backside, but right now it's a 4-for-1 in favor of Team BengalMac, and they might be able to look over towards the Orb Prime here. It's going to be kind of hard. Kairuga does have some lifesteal, but they are low health bars.
Calipito has ult as well. It is a mini prime, so that's going to be that's all. This is going to be a very easy thing to take.
Was not looking at the timer. I thought that was going to be a big prime. Yeah, they should be able to take a mini prime, no question. Switches might be able to find something on the back end though. Is able to get the slow. Looking for Calipito now. Calipito forced to pop the ultimate. Able to get a lot of HP back. BengalMac able to get a silence. Nice little pull. Iceborne Talons are pops. Get a little bit more damage. Switches gets a knockup. Able to land the Fury of the Heavens. Good little damage down. Doesn't want to look for too much more. Realizing that a lot of Team BengalMac had already reset, and he doesn't want to push up. Maybe get caught out by the full health members coming back.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a try. If you can get a pick, it's not too bad because Prime is going to be spawning. And the fact that they have got that mini Prime on a team member, I didn't actually see who picked it up there. I'm assuming it was the jungler of Calipito. Means that I know it's on Kai Ruger actually. Means that they're going
That's
to
gonna
put
be
it
big.
all on the Trim Blast. He is 7-1-4, so he is heavily, heavily farmed at this point in time. Has gone for that penetration build as we expected in the draft, which means that against the likes of Miro and Drongo, he can rip them to shreds.
Right in the off lane now, switches forced to blink out. Tekken Kid and Calipito trying to focus on Delphus, which is too low to try and rejoin the fight. So it looks like Delphus is just going to get melted down there by the double bruisers of Team BengalMac. Little bit
That's
aggressive
jungler
there. I
dead.
thought they might have been able to find something, but Pop Hero is going to come
Oh
around,
no.
maybe look for this Kwang. Gets good damage down, and the Nettles and Slow will be able to get him.
And that's just
With
all
only
fine though.
yeah, with 3 levels sorry, with 3 members still alive, it's gonna be a bit hard, but it's definitely very possible for BengalMac to do the, prime here, so we'll see if they're able to get it off. It looks like right now Team Bry is just gonna concede it. They don't wanna take any unnecessary risks, and what looked like a really good early game is suddenly, very heavily in favor of Team BengalMac.
I mean,
Super fed ADC.
they've just taken control. It's the fact that they've gotten picks after picks after picks, and then on the map, with ignoring the Astral Catalyst. Now we've talked about that. We're not going to talk about it again.
Not gonna talk about that more.
Just the case that on the map they have gotten those towers, they have gotten those macro plays, and even though medium, please, please no. Even though the fact that Team Bry did get to early Fangtooth, they're just not in a position to contest anymore, especially with this Orb Prime. And now, as you look at the map, there's only one tower left for them, for Team BengalMac to actually take. So this is going to be very much a case of sieging the inhibitors, most likely on a 4-1, maybe a 1-3-1 rotation with the Greystones and Gruxes on the off lane. But it's going to be something that's going to be quite hard to defend for Team Bry. They do have the Iggy and the Drongo wave clear, so it's not the end of the world. But if they make one misstep, it is going to be easily at least 1 or 2 inhibs.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, I think there's a lot of pretty standard itemization. I have never really been a huge fan of the Astral Catalyst on the Fae, but I think in this game it's totally fine. One of the big things though that I have championed a lot is Obelisk on mages, because it's just more damage, and typically you don't need that stasis if you're not into heavy dive. So really like that pick. But right now we just see a lot of BengalMac just really heavily sieging right now, getting a lot of good damage down onto the members of Team Bry, making it so that it's a really hard time to engage. And you can
Oh,
see Tekken Kid kills Omni in the left side, steps a
yeah.
bit too far forward trying to defend there, and probably doesn't realize, you're alone as an enchanter. You can't walk up past your team.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Just one misstep, and that's going to be an extra couple of inhibitors. They have taken the solo side already, and they are going to start to group up. Again, they don't have the most long range CC. They only wish to have the Fly Trap and the Whiplash. So they do have to get up close and personal if they want to really do any sort of crowd control. Defelis, though, not really in a position he can help. Ruger has got a lot of damage against these turrets. So that's going to be an extra turret extra inhibitor in the mid lane, and the inhibitor in the dual lane is going to fall rather soon. They are going to back off now, though, because the Primal Fangtooth is spawning.
Yeah, and a big thing about this, right, is they just slowly work their way from off lane into duo lane, taking out every inhib. Oh,
Oh, this
they're
is
springing
great.
trap. Are they gonna be able to get it? Switches walking in, immediately fly trap, nuked up, hit by the hook, immediately one shot, not even close. Calipito running down another one. 3 for 0 right now is only Delphus and Bry left alive. They're gonna try and get a little bit of damage down onto the waves, maybe delay it. But duo lane already has one. They're just shoving it in. Tekken and Pop Hero trying to zone him off. They're not going to be able to back, and it looks like Hyaruga and his friends are just going to run down the core at this point. Bry able to take out Tekken Kid, but it will not matter. The core is about to go down shortly. It looks like there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and in one fight, one bait at the Fort Camp pit ends it
you
immediately.